Like many of you, we've watched the recent flooding across the country with heavy hearts. Here in Austin, we've faced our own challenges with flooding. That's why planning for the future together matters so much. The City of Austin's Watershed Protection Department is updating their 10-year strategic plan, Rain to River, and they want to hear from you. Your input will help guide investments that protect Austin's waterways and communities. The survey is available now through September 15th at raintoriveratx.com. Again, that's raintoriveratx.com. Hey y'all, it's Nikki. It is summer, and for a lot of us, that means travel. Now, I don't know about you, but I still love a physical boarding pass. It's nostalgic. And even after the trip is done, I just can't seem to throw them away. Enter FrameBridge. They make it easy and affordable to custom frame just about anything. And yes, that includes my little paper boarding passes. So hold on to your personal piece of nostalgia with a FrameBridge frame. Visit framebridge.com or visit your local FrameBridge store in South Austin on South Lamar and in Central Austin on West 38th Street to start framing. Today on CityCast Austin, the recent rain that caused catastrophic flooding and damage may have pushed us out of the drought Central Texas has been in for a few years. Finally, our reservoirs are full. But how long will they stay that way? And how close did we get to having a real problem? It's Wednesday, July 23rd. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Kevin Kluge, Water Conservation Division Manager for Austin Water. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
So rainfall and water is really in the news lately. Average rainfall in July for Austin is 1 inch. And so far, we're at 5.7 inches at Camp Mabry this month. And we know that some of this was rain that then caused some very deadly flooding here in Central Texas. So how big of a deal was this?
This was a very big and very surprising July. Over the last several years, it's been particularly hot and dry. 2022, 2023 were some of the hottest years on record and very dry. So this year, it was quite a surprise to get such a large amount of rainfall and really put a lot of inflows into our reservoirs.
Are Austin's water reservoirs full at this point?
Nearly full. This morning, I checked LCRA's webpage, and it was up to 95% of our combined storage. So at the beginning of July 1st or so, we had about 50% of our combined water supply.
Wow.
And when I say combined, that's in Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan together. So it was a dramatic increase in the amount of water in those reservoirs.
When was the last time we were at these levels, 95% in our reservoirs? Probably when there was another flood, I'm guessing?
It was back in 2019.
Okay.
When we had this much water in the reservoirs, right? So it's
Wow.
been a while. You know, they
Wow.
often say Texas is a land of perpetual drought interrupted by catastrophic floods. And that's what we really saw here. We've been in drought for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And now we have this catastrophic and while it brought in a lot of water, there's a lot of tragedy also. But that's what happens with these reservoirs. They fill up quickly with a big storm, and then there's a long period of drought in between those large storms.
Are we technically still in a drought, or has this taken us out of drought?
We haven't actually changed the drought stage yet.
Okay.
But I think it's pretty easy to see that we are in a much better position than we were at the beginning of July.
Right.
That being said, you know, we're almost full in terms of our supply, but the next drought starts after the last rain. And sometimes you never know when that last rain will be.
Okay.
So we always have to be prepared for drought in Central Texas.
Wow. So we saw some footage of the floodgates at Lake Buchanan opening and releasing water, apparently, like you said, I guess for the first time since 2019. So what other dramatic effects of the water levels rising have y'all seen?
Well, certainly we have to be prepared for this large amount of water coming into the reservoirs, particularly Lake Buchanan, and then it gets not pushed down, but allowed to go down into Lake Travis and Lake Austin, where our intakes are. So that's one of the things we are always being aware of and preparing for is how that new water coming into the reservoirs can affect our intakes into our water treatment plants. And that's what we're doing, and it's worked well so far this time.
Does flooding raise any kind of water safety concerns for Austinites, just as far as just like, is our drinking water safe?
The water is absolutely safe. Let me put it that way. The challenge primarily we might have in a flood event as this is if there's a lot of debris coming down, a lot of silt in the water when it reaches our intake in our water treatment plants. That was a challenge a number of years ago that Austin faced. But since then, we've really upgraded those systems and added new filtering and so forth so that we are prepared for such an event like this, and water coming down with debris and so forth in it. So our treatment plants have been doing well. We take daily measurements to check the water as it goes through our treatment plants. So yes, there should be no change to your water. It is absolutely safe after this flood.
I appreciate you humoring my question.
No, it's a good question. Most people don't realize all that happens between the lake and their tap.
Yeah.
Collecting it, sending it and treating it, and then sending it through all the pipes. So it is safe.
It is safe. That's all I needed to hear. For those that are listening that might not know for sure, where does our drinking water come from?
Our drinking water is stored in Lake Buchanan and Lake Travis in the Highland Lake system. We have intakes, one on Lake Travis and two on Lake Austin. So that's where we pull our water from.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and educate me a little bit. I'm thinking if you can just open floodgates to help areas that have too much water, why did we see such bad flooding in Austin? If we have this option where we can release water, like how are the dams used? For lack of a better, I feel like maybe that's the better way to ask that question. Like, how do dams work? Which I know, I feel like I should know, but I don't.
Well, we certainly have the Highland Lakes. There's a series of dams on the Colorado River, Buchanan up at the top of the watershed. A lot of the tragic flooding that we saw earlier several weeks ago took place upstream of Buchanan. So there were no dams to hold that water. That just went straight down into Buchanan, which caught a lot of that water and stored it there. And then it's allowed to be released down into Lake Travis. So areas that are below those dams, they benefit from that flood protection of those dams. But areas upstream of those dams,
there's nothing to block that water from them.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. But then further downstream, downtown Austin, the Austin area, those places kind of get, for lack of a better way to say it, saved.
Correct.
By dams and protected by dams.
Right. And there are some urban streams, Waller Creek and other streams that if there is a large amount of rainfall over those can flood, but a lot of the urban area is protected from the flooding of the Colorado River by those dams. That's why you rarely see, Lady Bird Lake flood. Sometimes that does happen when there's a lot of rain over the metro area, but those dams really help regulate the amount of water in those Lady Bird Lake, for instance.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this rain affect the rest of the summer? Will there be water restrictions on us? Like how long do you think that the recreation ban stuff and the be careful for bacteria and all of that stuff, how long do you think that's going to last?
I'm afraid those are really questions to be answered by the Lower Colorado River Authority. They've been issuing a number of alerts. In terms of the city of Austin, that extra water is great to have in that reservoirs. In terms of what most people are going to see, there isn't really a big difference between June or now because Austin water is meeting those needs, providing those waters through the tap
Yeah.
that people use. It just does give us a lot more extra in those reservoirs going forward.
So if we had not had this flood, what kind of hot water, for lack of a better way to say this, would we be in? What position would we be in? Where would Lake Buchanan be at this point?
Before this flood, we were about 50%. Fortunately, we did get some rains in May that held us, that pushed it up a little bit. So we probably would have stayed in the 40% throughout the summer. I think there's enough to get us through the summer without going to another drought restriction. But that would have put us kind of behind the eight ball going into winter where we don't actually get a lot of rain. So if we didn't get a lot of rain in October, which is somewhat of a wet month, we would have been behind the eight ball going into the spring. So we would have been okay without this, but this really adds a lot.
Yeah, but we still need to conserve.
Exactly.
Still need to conserve. Still need to conserve.
For the long-term sustainability of the city, yes, we all have to learn to use a little bit less because the city continues to grow, more houses, more businesses. And the only way we can really grow is if we all use a little less.
If you're a CityCast Austin listener, you know I love Cabana Club. And in case you haven't been there yet, here's what you're missing. Cabana Club is a new establishment in East Austin. It's open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to late each night. Y'all, this place has everything. Coffee, cocktails, co-working, 2 bars, food trucks, tons of indoor and outdoor seating, public Wi-Fi, plenty of parking, an on-site speakeasy, and a swimming pool that is always 21 and up and open to the public. It makes sense as to why I'm there all the time. If you're looking for a fun space to host your next event at, the space is large enough to accommodate partial or full venue buyouts. Visit them online at cabanaclubaustin.com and follow them on Instagram at cabanaclubatx. Your East Austin oasis awaits.
This episode of CityCast is sponsored by Babbel. Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start that journey today? You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based technique that quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. Just one of the 12 languages you can learn with it, including Dutch, French, Italian, which is going to be next for me, Turkish, and Russian. I love the interactive dialogues that Babbel has, which allow me to practice what I've learned right away, and also the speech recognition function, which makes sure I'm getting the pronunciation just right, which honestly, usually I'm not. Also, I love that Babbel's lessons always cover actual things that I talk about in the real world, like food, talking to people I've just met, and also food. Staying motivated to learn a new language has never been easier thanks to real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations in only 10 to 15 minutes a day on Babbel's mobile app or website. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
So someone blew our mind recently and told us that we lose billions and billions of gallons of water because of leaks. And then someone else told us that it's because people like to water their lawns. They don't want their lawns to go brown. So coming from Austin Water, I'm really curious, what would you say is our biggest, man, we are using too much water for this thing, or we're losing water because of this thing?
Well, there's no one single thing that uses all the water. It's a combination of things. First of all, you have the reservoirs, and the reservoirs evaporate water off the lakes, which is actually a fairly large amount of water. But within the Austin Water system, you had mentioned leaks or irrigation. It's both of those. Individuals can use a lot of water in the summertime. The water use really peaks. And that's why we have 1 day a week watering restrictions for automatic irrigation systems. We actually have them all the time. We're one of the few cities in Texas that have 1 day a week watering restrictions, 365
Regardless.
days a year,
I didn't know that.
regardless.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
right.
That's good
And
to
that
know.
was really established back in the last drought, back in 2013, 14, we moved into that. And then in 2016, the city council made it official. And that really helps establish for our customers that idea that you only need to water once
Yeah.
for your landscape.
Wow, that really makes sense that 365 days a year, because honestly, there's just no reason to water more than once. But I also
Especially
don't,
now. with all
especially
the-
now.
the
Yeah,
rain.
like I also don't have a yard, so it's easy for me to say these things. But I am curious, like, our pipes are leaking more every year. Last year, the city lost like 9.3 billion gallons of water through leaky pipes, which was up from like 7 billion in 2023. Do other cities have problems with this? Like, what is the deal? Why are we leaking so much water?
Almost all utilities are challenged by water loss, particularly larger and older cities because they have
Mm,
older pipes.
right.
Austin has over 4,000 miles of pipes and over 3,000 miles of wastewater pipes. So there is a lot of
Wow.
pipes to keep track of. And over the years, different materials were used for different pipes. And in hindsight, you see, well, some of these materials were better than others. So Austin Water, particularly the last several years, has really focused on water loss. There's a lot of focus on the city's water use because we recognize that if we're going to ask residents and businesses to save water, we need to also be good stewards of the water that we're
Yeah.
distributing around. So we worked with exterior consultants to kind of take a look at what we are doing because we felt that we were checking almost all the box in terms of leak detection, leak repair, speed repair. And they came back and gave us some additional recommendations. And that's really what we're working on this year. We are working to acquire additional funding for even more pipe replacement and to shift our emphasis not so much on repairing and replacing the large mains, the large pipes, but also on the smaller pipes that go out to individuals. Those were identified as a source of water losses also. So
Wow. Okay.
we're doing a lot in terms of getting more funding for more pipe replacement and other activities to really lean into that water loss because we realize that's another thing that we have to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it just a matter of like the pipes have kind of aged out and it's time it's time to replace them? Is that kind of sounds like what we're talking about? Like we're
Some
just
of
needing
it's
to
the age of
update.
the pipe.
Yeah.
Some of it's the
Okay.
material of the pipe.
Okay, okay.
Because some types of pipes, like iron pipes, what have you, they could go for many years, or other
Yeah.
pipes that were built with some type of plastic material or composite material might have problems sooner.
Wow.
So it's not only age,
Yeah.
it's the type. It can also be the weather and the shifting of the soil. Because there's
Yeah.
more leaks, it turns out, when it's drier and the soil dries out and moves pipes underneath. That contributes to greater leaks also. Or on the flip side, during February's when we have periods of freezes, that also can create leaks. So there are a number of different reasons why this, and all cities in Texas, almost all of them, have faced the same challenge over the last several years, particularly
Yeah.
in areas with a lot of heat.
I am fascinated by this idea that there are a team of people that are digging up these pipes that someone put in 100 years ago, or like it seems like a wild little snapshot of history, and like, wow, okay, this is the choice they went with. Okay, like it's kind of fascinating to me. Okay, so we are flush with water now. 95% full in our reservoirs. I just like saying that number over and over again. But, like we've been talking about, that's not the case often, or most of the time, that's not the case. How can we as a city, or how can the city do a better job of just like water conservation in general? The city as in an entity and the city as in constituents.
Right, right. Well, you're right. It will take both. City government cannot do it on its own. Everyone has to contribute to what we want as a sustainable water future going forward. A lot of that, one, is knowledge. Austin Water recently completed the installation of smart water meters. Everyone now has a smart water meter,
Wow.
and it measures how much water goes through it every hour. And then it uploads that to the
So you can
cloud.
see in real time how much water you're using.
Well, there's about a day delay,
A
but
day,
it's pretty
well, yeah.
close.
But
You
that's
can
still
see
pretty
your
good.
water use in an
That's still
hour.
pretty good.
That is pretty good. It's not back in the day, you'd have to wait a month to see what your water bill said. People are often surprised how much water they use particularly when they run an irrigation system. It might be 500, 600, 800 gallons. Right. So knowledge is a big thing, not only for residents, as I mentioned, but Austin Water's utility. We're able to utilize the system to get a better idea of where's water moving around. And we are looking forward to, in the next year or so, to do some additional work on metrics so we know where we're losing the water. So knowledge is a big thing. Irrigation is a big thing, recognizing that we can save water by irrigating less. And then, as you mentioned, the water loss, addressing the water loss in the system.
So looking ahead, what would you say are the biggest risks now to Austin's water system? I mean, we talked a lot about this, for sure, the leakage and all that good stuff, but are there any other risks to our water system?
I mean, one reoccurring risk is always complacency. Once you have a lot of water, you may not think we don't need to save it. We don't need to move forward with the other supply strategies that we have, like storing water underground or reusing water. That is always a risk when you have a lot of abundance like what we have now. So we need to keep our eye on the ball and keep saving water so we can be more efficient, as well as finding other ways to cultivate our source. We have a great water source in the Highland Lakes, but we need to cultivate that in terms of reuse and finding other ways to store it.
I didn't even think about storage. That's a whole nother conversation. So is there anything else that you might want to add that I did not ask you about?
I would say that residents really need to realize that City of Austin really is forward-leaning in terms of water sustainability. I mentioned the restrictions all year round, but we just completed our recent Water Forward plan, which I would say is one of the best plans in the nation, looking out over 100 years in terms of our water supply. So we know how we're going to have that water over the next 100 years, but we're also focusing a lot on the next 20 years. Puts a lot of emphasis on water conservation and learning how to reuse water, use less of it. And Austin does a lot of planning for that. So I think I should feel very good about Austin's efforts to make sure they have water in the future.
That makes me feel good. That we're doing a good job. We can't rest. We can't get complacent. Kevin, thank you so much for being here and making this so accessible for me. I really appreciate you breaking this stuff down and taking the time.
Always happy to talk about water. It was great talking to you.
Before we go, here's a little midweek mood boost for you. There's an initiative known as the Sandy Creek Stuffy Project. It's a joint effort between local volunteers and the organization Land of Lovies. And they work to repair, replace, or restore stuffed animals that were damaged or lost in the floods. And so far, they've matched at least 10 stuffed animals to their original families. Why is this important? Well, for many, these plush toys hold significant sentimental value, and they offer children a sense of familiarity and comfort amidst the disruption. They're precious, and they hold the kids' memories and their happiness. And sometimes, I don't know about y'all, but my plushie was my best friend when I was a kid. It's just something that they can hold on to, and it's real, and they can put all their love and good memories into, and it's very grounding for them. So it's awesome that they are being reconnected with their stuffies. And just in case you're wondering, volunteers carefully wash the toys by hand, and they remove and replace the original stuffing to ensure that the toys are safe to keep. So shout out to the Sandy Creek Stuffy Project, because that is awesome. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Austin Water's website in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Austin neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.